in page 92, if you have this page. It's chapter 10, verse 22 and 23. Very interesting. One of the plagues. Moshe stretched forth his hand toward the heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. Darkness. Page 92. Is it working? Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. Grab a chumash. You can use his. You can use his. Or share. That's also good. The Makkah of Choshech. Darkness. One of the 10 plagues. You've heard of it? Good. The Torah says a very special type of darkness. It wasn't just any old darkness. Verse 23. They saw not one another. Neither rose any from his place for 3 days. So they couldn't see each other. Who could they not see? They could not see each other. Right? Our class is about relationships, right? And we talked about how a basic part is to see each other, to recognize there's somebody else who's important. Who was the master of seeing how the other is? Who really, his rise to fame was through his ability to notice what's happening to others. None other than Moshe Rabbeinu, who was doing this plague. Vayet Moshe et yado. Go back to the beginning of chapter 1 in the book of Shemot. Moshe was growing up, and chapter 2, verse 11 on page 13, it says, Moshe came to pass in those days, Moshe grew up, and he went out unto his brethren, Vayetze Lachav, Vayar Besivlotam, and he saw their burdens. Vayar, once again, and he saw that there was an Egyptian that was hitting a Hebrew man. And again in verse 12, I'm on page 14 now, that's chapter 2 in Shemot, verse 12. He looked, turned this way and that way, and saw, Vayar, third time, and so this idea that Moshe goes out and he sees what's going on. He sees what's going on interpersonally. This was Moshe's rise to fame. The fact that he was able to notice this, what's going on to other people. People are fighting, and then he did something about it as well. So I thought that was striking that now the penultimate of the 10 plagues has something to do with the Egyptians who were suffering the plague, could not see each other. And obviously that causes discord. And the Midrashim talk about how they, obviously couldn't get together to fight or to stop the Jewish people. And this is a striking part of the idea of having the interpersonal relationships. One other beautiful part of yesterday's parsha that I want to show you. You can share. Hananel, share with our. Oh, you have one. Oh, perfect. I'd like you to look now, please, at an amazing Rashi. That's why I asked you to bring this one with Rashi. Thank you to David for bringing them. And it's a little bit later on in the parsha when already Moshe is getting commands about what to do with the sacrificial lamb. Look on chapter 12, beginning of the commandment section of the Torah. It says at the beginning of chapter 12, on page 98, you have the same edition that I have, beginning of chapter 12. Who can read it for me? Who can read it for me, please? In English. Go for it. Shushan.
And the Lord spoke unto Moses and unto Aaron.
Unto who?
Moses and Aaron.
Moses and Aaron. Okay, pay attention. To who is he speaking?
Moshe and
Moshe and Aaron. Okay, Moshe and Aaron. Go ahead.
In the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. The first shall it be to you of the months of the year, unto the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month. Thou shalt take...
What was it? Beginning of verse 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Verse 3 now.
Verse 3, speaking unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month.
Wait, say that again, because the Hebrew is Dabru.
Dabru,
what does that mean in English? Dabru is plural.
Yeah,
it's plural.
Yeah.
Moshe and Aaron together are supposed to speak and tell them that the 10th day of the month you're supposed to take the sheep, right? The lamb. And so this is strange. Who was supposed to give the message to the Jewish people?
Moshe and Aaron.
Moshe and Aaron together. Sounds a little confusing to me. I am one person giving shir. You can hear me. Imagine if there's two people speaking together, It would be hard to hear each other. So take a look at Rashi. Rashi says as follows. Beginning of verse 3. It's on page 99. My favorite number. What does Rashi say? Dabru, speak ye unto all the congregation. Who can read the Rashi? Go ahead, Shushan. Rashi on verse 3. The left-hand column.
Okay. But did Aaron speak, though it says Dabru in the plural?
Did Aaron really speak? So they both spoke? Valo, keep going. Yeah.
For was it not already stated, Thou shalt speak? However, they paid respect.
Wait, so the question is, thou shalt speak isn't singular. That's in Shemot 7. It says that Moshe is the guy who's speaking to the Jewish people. He's what we call Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu gives the mitzvah to the Jewish people, not Aaron. So why here? Now they're giving the mitzvah. It's one thing, you're going in front of Paro. Moshe says, I'm a stutterer, I can't talk. But the mitzvot, Moshe is supposed to teach us, right? Halacha Moshe Misira. Moshe gives us the mitzvot. What is this idea that together, here they mention Moshe and Aaron together speaking? What's his answer? However,
they paid respect to each other, and they said one to the other, Teach me. And the divine statement went from for both of them, as though both of them spoke.
Wow, what an interesting Mechilta. He quotes the Mechilta. Mechilta is the Midrash on the book of Shemot, the Midrash Halacha, the book of Shemot, but much of the Midrash Halacha has Agadic material as well. It's not really a halachic statement, but it's a beautiful idea that they each said to each other, they each showed respect to each other, Moshe and Aaron, and they each said, teach me. So who was actually the teacher? We all know Moshe Rabbeinu, but Aaron's given prominence here. God says to Moshe and Aaron, the first mitzvah in the Torah. And they each said to each other, teach me. Basically, they're going to now give the mitzvah to the Jewish people. And Moshe said to Aaron, well, go ahead, you teach. And Aaron said to Moshe, no, go ahead, you teach. And there was a miracle. What is the image? The dibur yotze mibein shnehem ki'ilu shnehem b'dibrim. The speech comes out from between them, from both of them, from in between them. The translation here is not very good. The dibur here that it's referring to is not a divine statement. It is divine because they're teaching the divine Torah, but it means when they were teaching the Jewish people, the two of them stood up. Imagine a press conference with two heads of state. And somehow the message came out from both of them together. What an image that they were showing respect to each other, and they somehow became as one, and the speech came out from in between them. This dovetails very nicely with what we've been trying to speak about, how that there's, when you talk with each other, there's something that happens. There's a creative process which is almost like magic, almost like a miracle. That what comes out, it's not your idea or the other's idea, but it's a joint creation. Yes, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'm struck in this. It feels like one of the first Pashats where two brothers are getting along in a loving, supportive.
Beautiful, exactly. Fixing. What do we know in all Bereshit where the brothers are not getting along?
Ishmael.
Cain and Abel. Who else?
Ishmael and
Ishmael and Yitzchak.
Yaakov and
Yaakov and Esav, and then the last four parshas, Yosef and his brothers. Of course, the fact that the brothers are doing it together, and we're going to see, not today, but another time, I'll give you a lecture. I hope someday, maybe I'll teach you. I found in this particular first mitzvah, when the Jewish people do to get out of Egypt, upon leaving Egypt, many, many hints to the ideas that they need to rectify the sale of Yosef by his brothers, and having the brothers get together and fix the interpersonal relationships between ourselves is the key to getting out, to being redeemed, to getting out of Egypt. So I just didn't want to let that pass, even though that wasn't, our whole class is not going to be about Parsha. We found, even in this Parsha, which was all about plagues, a few hints to actually this beautiful relationship between Moshe and Aaron, as opposed to what the plague was. The plague was that they couldn't see each other, and Moshe was the expert at actually seeing his brethren earlier in his development as the leader of the Jewish people. Okay, so part one, we can put this away. Part two, I'd like to share with you, continuing on the topic we've been seeing, we've been analyzing, please you can give this out, been analyzing the mitzvah of V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. We saw a number of sources. We saw the Rambam where he was describing in, I believe it was in Hilchot Deot, how you have to love your neighbor as yourself. And what that means is, who remembers how the Rambam described it? The halachist in his book, the Mishnah Torah, the Rambam said, what does it mean that you have to love your neighbor as yourself? Could you really love your neighbor as yourself? Right? The Ramban also said, can you really love? You love yourself, you have an ego. He's not part of you. And so what does it mean that you have to love your neighbor as yourself? Who remembers what the Rambam said?
You have to worry.
He gave two examples. Worry about what?
Worry about his material being.
Material possessions and his reputation. Very good. Okay, we covered that. Very practical. Do the actions for him like you would do for yourself. There's another Rambam where he mentions this mitzvah of and this, it's on the border between a rabbinic mitzvah and a biblical mitzvah. It's fascinating. It's, believe it or not, it's very strange. It's in the laws of mourning with a U. Laws of mourning. Who can read it for us? Aaron, you with us?
Yes.
Please read the beginning of the page.
Mishnah Torah, mourning, is a rabbinic positive precept to visit the sick, comfort the mourners, escort the dead, the door.
Yeah, like give dowry. This is provide for the bride, yeah?
Accompany the departing guests, as well as to cheer the bride and the groom, and to assist them in whatever they need. Even though all these precepts are the rabbinic origin, they are implied in the biblical verse, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. That is, whatever you would have others do to you, do to your brothers in Torah and precepts.
Okay, so here he expands the idea, love your neighbor as yourself. Still, it's on the level of actions, what you do. And there's actually rabbinic mitzvot which detail it. We know them well. To visit the sick, to comfort the mourners, everything that you do to help someone. There's specific laws of visiting the sick. There's specific laws how to escort a guest. It's a mitzvah to support a bride and groom, to help them get married. All these are actions which you're supposed to do. He says they're implied also in the biblical verse, do love your neighbor as yourself. Again, do unto others what you would have them to do to you. If you were sick, you'd be happy if somebody brought you over some soup. So bring over some soup to someone who's sick. I could use some chicken soup right now. I have a little bit of a cold. But I have tea, so I'm okay. And I'm learning Torah, so that's the most important. Okay, so this fits in pretty well with what we saw in the Rambam beforehand. What's a little bit surprising the story that you might have heard before about converts. Some of you here are converting. And there's the famous story about Hillel and Shammai. Hillel and Shammai, those in the fundamentals class, we've spoken about them the other day. They were the last of the pairs, just before the Tannaitic period, Hillel and Shammai. So there's a story there, perhaps the most famous converts in the world. Who can read it for us? It comes from the Gemara in Shabbat 31a. Chaim, go for it.
There was another incident involving one Gentile who came before Shammai and said to Shammai, "Convert me on condition that you teach me the entire Torah while I am standing on one foot." Shammai pushed him away with the builder's cubit in his hand. This was a common measuring stick, and Shammai was a builder by trade. The same Gentile came before Hillel. He converted him and said to him, "That which is hateful to you, do not do to another. This is the entire Torah, and the rest is its interpretation. Go study."
Okay, so many sources quote this story of Hillel, and they interpret that. How could Hillel say that this is the entire Torah? Well, we saw in a few classes back that Rabbi Akiva said, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, ze klal gadol b'Torah." This is a great precept in Torah. Essentially, Hillel was saying that. He's saying, love your neighbor as yourself. That's what you need to, that's the essence of Torah. Everything else is just commentary. So he taught him the entire Torah standing on one foot. How can you do that? That's one long lecture. All the Torah was standing on one foot. Hillel found the shortcut. The shortcut was love your neighbor as yourself. Now what's interesting is, first of all, that seems surprising. We have so many mitzvot which are between man and God. Not only man and man. How does keeping Shabbat have to do with loving your neighbor as yourself? So that's surprising. But even more surprising is, how does Hillel state this mitzvah? He says, not even like the Rambam that you should do good things for your neighbor, whatever you think you would want him to do to you, you should do to him, and you should worry about his reputation, worry about his possessions. Hillel states it here. What's taken in Western society is known as the golden rule. What's different about this statement is that it's in the negative. It's not even go look for things, whatever you would do for yourself, do for him. First of all, don't do. Don't, right? Don't fix what ain't broken. Or stay away from doing bad things unto other. What is hateful to you, do not do unto another. That is the entire Torah. The rest is interpretation. Go and study. I will just say, before I take your questions, that a lot of people quote this famous passage of Hillel and the golden rule, and wow, isn't it beautiful? You should be respectful of others and don't harm them, and that's really the most important thing. And love your neighbor as yourself gets interpreted as in the negative. First of all, And then maybe there's a higher level. But the basic level is don't harm someone else. What they don't mention when they quote this story of Hillel is the end.
Go study.
Go study. Go study. So this is how can Hillel really claim that this is the whole Torah? It's not the whole Torah. It's the beginning of a process. This is the start, the jump off point. If you go and you start from here and you go study, you'll develop what that means in greater detail. You'll understand the ramifications of it. It can maybe at one point even turn into, well, if I have to show respect for my fellow man, surely I should show respect for God, who I also have a relationship with, right? So we can learn about our relationship with God from our relationship with man. But the key is, you got to go study. It's not just about, right? It's like the entire tree with all the fruits and the leaves and the branches. It's all there in a tiny little seed, right? The tree's there in potential. It's like DNA, right? It incorporates all of our genetic code of the entire person, of our ears and our eyes and our mouth and our nose and our heart. All the different kinds of molecules get created from our DNA. So it's basically what Hillel was trying to say is that the DNA of Judaism, you want to convert, DNA of Judaism is, I'll say it in my terms, to have good relationships. Now you start with relationships in the negative, and then you can move on to the positive. You start with a relationship between man and man, and then you can move on to relationships between man and God. But this is a minimizing statement of the bare bones of what it means to have a relationship. We saw before, the Rambam speaks about the actions to do, to care for others, and that could imply rabbinic mitzvot, as we saw at the first source on the page. And it could even start off at an even smaller kernel of understanding, and that is, first of all, don't harm someone else. The negative, the golden rule. That is the entire Torah. The rest is interpretation. Go and study. Okay, questions, comments? Somebody wanted to say something. Yes, David, you were waiting. Thank you.
Yeah, that's less related to the relationship, but what time did Shammai and Hillel live?
Before 0.
Before the
Yeah, before the Tanaim. Before the
another
Tanaim.
thing is it the same?
About minus 50, minus 70.
Is it the same convert story with the one who wanted to wear the Kohen Gadol's clothing?
Yes, there's 3 actually. That's what it starts off. There was another incident. I just brought this one.
The same story, the same convert.
It's the same. Well, there were 3 converts maybe.
Oh, okay. So
Afterwards they meet. The story says that afterwards they meet and they say, Shammai, we would have been lost forever if we just had him, because he was a little bit more negative, or he was, probably saying the right answer, that's ridiculous. And Hillel had faith in us and, really saw to our sincere desire. And because of Hillel, we merited to this world, the next world, join the Jewish people. And so there it seems like there were 3 different converts, both looking for assistance from Hillel and Shammai. We don't have. Yesterday, somebody showed me a book by Professor Rabbi Yosef Telushkin, popular author of bringing Jewish teachings in a very readable and easy manner. And he wrote an entire book on Hillel. The Hillel, what is it called? The Hillel. I think if I'm not for me, who is for me? One of his statements, there's many statements in Pirkei Avot of Hillel and other places in the Talmud. He collects them all, tries to paint a picture of what was Hillel's nature, and some people say it's a little bit autobiographical. He was giving his approach to Judaism and pinning it on Hillel, but it seems to be a nice book. I haven't really read it, but he does some good work, Joseph Telushkin. And primarily outreach with people who have no connection to Judaism whatsoever. In the Reform movement, he teaches, and everywhere, whoever will listen, he's trying to spread the Jewish teachings. So it's a wonderful book about Hillel. But okay, so another question. Yeah, Aaron was waiting, then Michal. Yeah.
So what's his trait profession, what made Hillel so considerate, so understanding of other people?
It's a good question. One another story about Hillel that you might have heard is that he was very poor, and he worked in whatever job he could find. And it says that every day he would, good morning, come on in, it's fine. Every day he would work at whatever odd jobs he could find, take the money, guess buy himself dinner, and then pay the fee to get into the Beit Midrash. Apparently there was a fee at the time. I mean tuition, but I don't know if there's a turnstile, whatever it is. And then it happened one day, there was a snowstorm, and he couldn't get any work. He couldn't get any work that day, so he couldn't get into the Beit Midrash. But he realized that there was a sunroof, and if he climbed up to the roof of the building, and he lay there on top, he could listen in. So he tried to get the shir for free. Okay, but there was a snowstorm, and so as shir was going on, he was listening. It was snowing on top of him, and it snowed, and then so the Talmud says it snowed 3 amot. So that's like a few feet of snow fell on top of, I don't know, Jerusalem. When do you get a few feet of snow? But the point is that he was freezing to death, and the rabbi was giving the shir. He says, "It's getting dark in here." And he looks up and says, "Something blocking the sunroof. What the skylight?" And they said, they realized that this is what Hillel did, and they brought him down, and it was Shabbat. And they heated up water to warm him up, to save his life. Pikuach nefesh, Pusav Shabbat. And then they realized he was a great scholar, and he became a leader of prominence, as we know. He was the head of the president of the Beit Din, Nasi, the Nasi of the Jewish people. In any case, so Hillel, he was poor, so maybe that made him more sensitive. But I don't know exactly. It's hard to psychoanalyze Hillel. He was also a great scholar, but these stories help us paint a picture. It's nice to try to paint a picture of his teachings, and every rabbi has his approach. It's not like Shammai was a bad guy. Don't get me wrong.
Shammai is an engineer, very rational.
Right. Also, it's like a yardstick. It's a measurement, right? The amah. He's a builder. So a builder uses, nowadays we have a tape measure, right? But the stick to measure things, there has to be rules. There has to be some guidelines. So Shammai was saying, you got to join the conversion course. What is this one leg? It's impossible to learn all the Torah in one. You got to fit into some structure. Hillel somehow was a little bit above the structures. Okay.
The rabbinate postings by Shammai and Hillel.
Unfortunately, sometimes it feels that way. We all want to emulate both. They both have good qualities, and we have to use both in good measure in the right time. There's a time to be strict and go according to the book, and there's a time to be able to see beyond the immediate or the face of matters. He apparently had the skill to be able to see inside those converts and to see that they really were sincere, even though they made ridiculous demands, like being a Kohen Gadol or wanting to know all the Torah while you're standing on one foot. But we're all the richer for it, because Hillel, we got this great statement that this is the Torah, entire Torah. It's good to know what the essence of Torah is, what the DNA of the Torah is. Relationships, right? I don't have another one. Sorry, you have to share. Aaron, will you share your page with Binyamin, please? Okay. But as we were seeing in the past classes, and I want to review, we also saw the opinion of the Seforno last week or 2 weeks ago, and we saw other sources which say that when the Torah says love your neighbor as yourself, it means much more than that. It's not just about actions. It's actually feeling the other, love your neighbor like yourself. You actually have to feel like you're one with the other. And there's 2 more sources on this page that I want to share with you today. And we were talking about, last time we were saying how how do you foster that feeling of closeness, of oneness, beyond just doing actions to care for him, to actually feel at one with the other. We said, what's our primary tool? The tool that we have in our toolbox to foster love between ourselves and our neighbors, ourselves and our wives, ourselves and our words. Absolutely, speech, speaking. When you speak with the other, and that's why I showed you this morning the Rashi about Aaron and Moshe speaking, and the speech came out between them somehow. When you have show respect with each other, something comes out. Let's just speak. So these two sources that you have, the following two sources on the page, also develop this idea. First of all, the Smag Sefer Mitzvot Gadol, a list of mitzvot on the mitzvah to love your neighbor. He quotes the Palestinian Talmud. David, you read it for the Jerusalem Talmud brings.
Yeah.
Smart.
Okay. The Jerusalem Talmud brings that if by accident you cut yourself with a knife, would you imagine hitting back and cutting the hand that you did?
Right. So again, it's the same idea. We're all the Tanya also. The Tanya in the book of the Tanya, he speaks about that as well in the chapter 32. Famous heart of the Tanya. He speaks about the love between Jews. We have to foster. He says, and I think last time we mentioned another passage in the Talmud Yerushalmi speaks about that we're all in the same boat. If when somebody's drilling a hole in his corner of the boat, says, "Leave me alone. I'm in my room. What do you want? I'm in my cubby." Right on a cruise ship, everybody has their place. So guy's drilling a hole in his room, and they come to him and says, "Listen, you're letting water in." He says, "What do you want from me? This is my space." So we're all in the same boat, right? If you sink, we all sink. And here it's even more. It's that it's as if we're both limbs of the same organism, the same body. Different people in the Jewish people. We're all like, it's like one hand. So you're gonna hurt your hand, even if somebody hurts you. So you're gonna hurt them back. You're hurting yourself because we're all one. We're supposed to be united. How do we understand that? Someone hurts you. Of course you're going to hate him. He hurt you. He's doing bad things to you. How can you love him? Okay, we're all part of one body, and I'm not going to strike out at him, but you're probably going to still feel animosity and be angry at the guy. So the Baal Shem Tov, who comes much, much later in our history, he also is going in the same direction that we've been saying more and more about how a relationship is about this relationship between you and someone else is very personal. If you remember last time we were talking about you have to know yourself very well in order to be able to share with the other. And let's see what here the Baal Shem Tov says. It's a book called Mori Naim, which was by Rabbi Menachem Nachum from Chernobyl. He was a Hasidic master, teacher, and he quotes the Baal Shem Tov in the following classic statement, which really is it's a foundation for every type of work and interpersonal relationship. Who can read it for us? The last paragraph? Somebody else who we haven't heard yet? Stephen, please go ahead.
If you see something wrong,
even
if you see something wrong in your friend, you should hate only the evil in him, but the holy part you should love as yourself. For Baal Shem Tov,
of blessed memory,
we said, the only tzaddik who has no evil in himself sees no wrong in anyone, but someone who sees evil in others is like looking in a mirror. If his face is dirty, you will see dirt on the face in the mirror. And if his face is clean, you don't see any dirt in the mirror. You see what you are. The meaning of love.
This
This is the meaning of love your neighbor as yourself. Like you know no evil in yourself as you do not have yourself, even though you had the bad in you. So too regarding your friend, for in reality is all one. For also your friend has a godly part like you and has a letter in the Torah.
Okay, so he uses a lot of metaphors. But the primary metaphor that he speaks about is the mirror. There's even an entire school of therapy that's called imago, of relationships therapy. What's imago? It comes from the word? Image. What's an image?
A picture of
When you see yourself, a reflection of yourself. So, and it's all about developing relationships based on understanding that, another way of saying it is like, everything was cloudy here. You know, and then, it looks like everybody's a little dark today, everybody's sad. And it turns out, I just have dirt on my glasses. Right? I'm seeing the problems in me because my glasses have dirt on them. No, you're all beautiful, you're all smiling, but I just couldn't see you well enough. It's another image. But he uses the image of a mirror. A mirror is, if you have dirt in you, you'll see dirt in others. And if only the tzaddik, somebody so pure, he has no evil in him, so he can see only the good in others. He's able to see others as absolutely pure. And then he uses this idea of like yourself, love your neighbor like yourself. Well, do we love ourselves? Hopefully we do. Talked about having self-esteem. We forgive ourselves very easily. We did something wrong. Okay, we'll do better tomorrow. And but we all consider ourselves pretty good, or we wouldn't be able to get up out of bed every morning. So, but we know we did something bad. We say, okay, I have to fix that bad part. I have to fix, but still a good guy. I hope everybody should be feeling that way about themselves. If you don't, it's a pathology. It's a sickness. It's people people who hate themselves. They can't survive in the world. They can't. Then they start to get all sorts of illnesses. Eating disorders is common among women who look in the mirror and they think they're fat. They're not fat. In their mind, they're fat. And so they see fat in the mirror. So having a healthy image of yourself is the key. To know that, sure, I have mistakes, and I have to fix them. But it's a very small part. Benjamin, you're so beautiful, you're so pretty. I think I'm pretty, even though I have this little thing on my nose. I know I've got a little thing on my nose. What can I do? It's not, I'm still pretty, right?
Yes.
Thank you. I was looking for it. And when you that's just the muscle. That's the way we live. We have to have a positive self-image to feel good about ourselves, so that we can act in the world. We should do that same thing with others. Sometimes I see the guy and I see all the bad things about him. Right? You know the tile in the ceiling. There's a tiled ceiling. Think frescoes of like the Sistine Chapel or something. Apparently, there's beautiful painting on the ceiling, and they say, and they say that if there's a mosaic with tiles, what do you look at? The one tile that's missing. Your eye is drawn sort of off by a magnet. Your eye is drawn to see what's the defect. You don't see the beauty of the entire picture. It's a natural inclination. We have to fight that and see, wow, It's beautiful, despite there being a defect, despite there is something wrong. We do that naturally about ourselves. The mitzvah, love your neighbor like yourself, says the Baal Shem Tov, is to do that about the other.
Well, Shem Tov also say hate the small spot and love the whole picture.
That's right. Hate the small spot. You have to fix whatever, if you can, help him fix whatever he needs fixing, that's great. But you have to love him, and he says, why are you so beautiful, and why is he so beautiful, even though you have defects? He says, he has a letter in the Torah. Every Jew has a godly part in you. This is, again, a Hasidic development of the idea. Everybody has a part of God within you. You have a godly soul. Everybody was created in God's image. Everybody has a godly soul. Not only you, also them. So that's the big picture. The big picture is you're beautiful. You're godly. You're holy. Even if you do a lot of bad things, can't touch the core of who you are. Core of who you are is a godly being. And if I'm like that, I'm willing to accept that about me. Of course, I'm godly. But about him, he's a jerk. He may act like a jerk, and he's got jerk parts to him. But in the big picture, at his essence, at his core, he has a letter in the Torah. The Torah is made out of letters. And how many letters are there in the Torah? According to the tradition, it's 600,000. And what does that mean? Why 600,000? Because there's 600,000 Jews came out of Egypt. This was in the Parsha, right? How many Jews came out? 600,000. Shishim Ribo. So that means that every Jew is precious, like every letter in the Torah is precious. And if the Torah is missing one letter, it's invalid. So every Jew has to have his letter in the Torah. What's the Torah? The holiest thing we have. So every Jew is holy. Every Jew is holy. And that's how we should try to look at them. The tzaddik, only the tzaddik can do that because he's perfect. So he's got the mirror, and if he's perfect, so he's going to see everybody else is perfect. Wow, that's a high level. We're looking at the tile that's broken in ourselves and in others. And yet, we still have the commandment to love your neighbor. And the key to do that is like yourself. I look in the mirror, I see, I got a spot here, bad hair day. All right, I don't do that. But there's something, my nose is always too long, I'm too fat. There's always things wrong. I'd like to lose a few pounds. I should be nice. I should call my mother more often. There's always things that I've got to fix. But at the core, I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy, right? You are too. And we're going to come back to this. Maybe we'll learn a little bit about imago. How to have conversations by reflecting and appreciating the other, seeing him, right? We talked about Moshe. The plague in Egypt was they couldn't see each other. Moshe had the power of seeing, and it goes together with the power of listening, just to see somebody else. We're using different metaphors for the concept of having a relationship. And but the Baal Shem Tov adds that it starts with you, your self-image. How do you treat yourself? You treat yourself with love. You can treat the other with love. And Bezrat Hashem. Who had a question? Who wanted to say something? Benjamin, you wanted to speak?
I guess if you can say, I have some privilege.
You're among friends. Speak your heart, please.
In my boarding school, I suffered.
You suffered, yeah.
And one of those things is that my teacher, in front of all the students,
Oh, yeah.
he says that the blacks have a tail.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And I lived this with many years.
Wow. Oh,
I
yeah.
went to libraries looking books to find out why the others don't have tail.
Oh.
I only guy black
Mm.
has tails.
Yeah. Yeah.
So until many years
Yeah.
that I find my love
Right.
and myself,
Wow. Wow.
I discover that I was the best of myself. That my tail was the fantasy of the others, not mine.
Beautiful. Wow. Yeah, it's easier said than done, but maybe with the tail it's easier. It's easy. that but you're right to realize that you are valuable and you have beauty. That's a lifelong challenge, but it's key to be able to appreciate the other. And I'm sorry you had to go through that horrible teacher who said such ridiculous things, but and it's abusive at boarding school. We have to hear more about your life sometime.
Yes.
I'm sure you could fill volumes and with the wisdom which you picked up along your life. So thank you for sharing. All right, we'll stop here for today.